Welcome to today's Econelastic video, in which we're going to be covering the movements along and shifts in the demand curve. So our aim for you is, by the end of this video, we want you to understand the difference between what causes a movement along the demand curve and what causes an actual shift in the demand curve.
Yeah, so let's look at the movements along the demand curve first. A demand curve is constructed on the assumptions that all other things remain equal. This is referred to as ceteris paribus in economics. So from our previous video on the demand curve, all other factors of the demand curve, such as taste, income, expectations, etc., remain unchanged. So a change in price is represented by a movement along the demand curve. So let's look at this in actual graph form.
So we'll start by drawing the vertical y-axis, followed by the horizontal x-axis. We then label the y-axis price and the x-axis quantity. We'd now draw the downward sloping demand curve, and whether it's steep or shallow, elastic or inelastic, at this point, in order to demonstrate movement along the demand curve, it doesn't matter at this point. So just draw a downward sloping demand curve. So if we put a price level P0 in and draw along this, if you choose a ruler and meet the demand curve and follow that down, you'll find that we get a quantity demanded of Q0, and this is represented by point A on the demand curve. So if the price of the good or service now increases to P1, again, following that along to the demand curve and down to the quantity, we'll get a quantity demanded of Q1. This is due, obviously, to the law of demand that we introduced in our previous video. And this is represented by point B on the demand curve. So we can see the overall effect of the increase in price is a movement along the demand curve from point A to point B. Now, conversely, you'll see the graph on your screen now. The opposite will occur in the event of a price decrease. So the overall effect of the price decrease is a movement along the demand curve from point C to point D.
So let's now consider a demand curve where one of the other factors of demand, other than price does change. So for example, an income rise. And we are looking at the demand for wine in this graph. So this would actually cause a rightward shift in the demand curve. This means that every price, more will be demanded than before. And again, let's take a better look at this on a graph.
So we start by drawing the same axis as before, that is price on the y-axis and quantity on the x-axis. Again, we draw our first downward sloping demand curve and we label this D0. So at price level P0, if you draw along that price level to meet the demand curve and then down to the quantity on the x-axis, you'll find a quantity demanded of Q0. So if we consider the increase in income that Joe just mentioned, this would actually cause a rightward shift in the demand curve from D0 to D1 on your screen. So at the same price level, P0, the quantity demanded has now increased from Q0 to Q1, which you can see as a shift from point A to point B on your graph. So if we think about this rationally then, if we have a decrease in income or a decrease in any of the other factors of demand that causes demand to fall, we'll actually see a leftward shift in the demand curve shown on your graph on the screen from D0 to D2. Again, at the same price level P0, demand is now less than before. The quantity demanded is Q2.
So to distinguish between movements along and shifts in the demand curve, we must understand the difference between a change in the demand and a change in the quantity demanded, where a movement along the demand curve as a result of the change in price refers to a change in the quantity demanded. A shift of the demand curve refers to a change in demand.
Yeah. So we hope you understand that. Joe just about got it out towards the end there. If it'll help, we can write that down in the comments section for you. If you do have any questions on any of the content or the graphs in this video, do leave some questions in the comments section. We hope it's been helpful for you, and we hope to see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching.